do that literally like the week after the meeting. They're too tall, you gotta lower it down.
You want to know what we look like on TV?
You don't touch
Oh, wow.
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
They'll be closer.
So do we have anything going on with our computers, or we just have that up there?
Are you not monitoring?
No, we don't, nobody has their.
Go ahead and kick off the meeting. I'll ask Steve about that.
Okay, great.
If you
Okay,
prefer
good.
to have that, I can ask him to do that.
And are we being recorded? We're all set right now to go? We
I haven't-
usually get a
I haven't
little.
heard that you are not being recorded.
All right.
Oh,
that's
he's,
right.
there's a thumbs up
Okay,
over there.
great. Meeting will come to order for the Oregon City Art Commission, January 19th, 7:02. So I don't think there is anything for public comment. I don't see anybody online, although we don't have our computers on right now, or anybody here present for any public comment.
We got to adopt the agenda.
And so first, we'll do the adoption of the agenda. Everybody receive a copy of the agenda? Any revisions? Any additions to what we saw? No. So we will take a vote to approve the agenda and just go around the table. Commissioner Burek? Yes, for the agenda?
Yes, for the agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Lugo?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews, yes?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes. Commissioner Jones, yes.
Woodward, yes.
And Commissioner Carlson is on Zoom.
Yeah.
Tima, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We sure can.
Yeah.
Can I request, are our name tags around somewhere? I feel like for the purposes of
Another
recording,
thing.
people might.
Yes, let me get the name tags. I'm a little rusty since Daniel's been doing it for the last, how long? 9 months maybe? So, name tags. I will look for the name
Okay,
tags.
great.
Thank you.
I think
And
they're
also-
kept in that cabinet there.
And the chair just asked me about watching what's going on the video screen in front of you. There is a little switch underneath the table, and you should be able to flip that switch to be able, and that should turn your monitor on.
There's one
The
here.
bottom of the monitor, not underneath.
Oh, pardon me. What? Steve says it's at the bottom of the monitor, not under the table.
There is actually a switch down here, but it got pushed.
I know, maybe we're mute now.
So there should be a.
What is this?
Oh, here it is, right here.
Oh, this thing, the presentation pack.
Just on the monitor.
Is that what it is, Steve?
Yes.
Oh, this here, okay.
To the left,
Is
or do I
that-
move to the right?
Oh, yeah, she just touched, she grazed it with her.
Oh, beautiful finger.
No, there was nothing.
Find it.
It just like the soft little rub on the bottom.
Did you get it to the left or to the right?
I did both.
I think
You
it
neither one worked.
Raised the whole bottom like that. That's what she did and it worked. Raised the
But I
bottom.
still don't see anything.
No,
it says- mine says no signal. Yeah,
No,
mine,
they were
mine's
not
no
turned
signal
on.
either.
So do you know how to turn them on?
It says no signal.
Went back to sleep. It's very nice looking though.
They were on earlier, so it's, switch goes between two items here, and is that nothing?
It's okay, we don't really need them, do we?
No.
Okay.
I mean, except we can't see Tima, but we can hear Tima, so.
I don't think we have any, do we have any presentations today that we would be,
No, I have things, but they're handouts.
okay. As long as we don't have any presentations, I think that's,
Yeah, if she comes up, she'll come up over there in that window.
okay. Thank you.
Where's the window that
Sorry.
we can see Tima in
Yeah,
case she
my,
has her hand raised?
IT.
If Tima needs to raise her hand, she'll have to just like, say something.
Yeah,
Just
Tima,
yell.
if you have something, just pitch in because we can't see you on the monitor, so please join in.
Okay, sounds good.
And aye from you, yes from you for the meeting minutes from last?
Yes, aye for me.
Actually, we
That's-
voted
it
on
was
the
for the
agenda,
agenda. There's-
not the
there's-
minutes.
The minutes, the agenda.
Yeah, the minutes would be
Oh, the
separate.
adoption of the agenda.
And
Do we don't have minutes in here.
do we also need to do a roll call?
We typically do a call. Would you like me to do the call now?
Yes, please.
And Commissioner Carlson, if you could put yourself on mute when you're not speaking, that would be great. Alrighty.
Yes, thank you, sorry.
Thank you. Trias Andrews,
Here.
Karen Burrig. Here. Tima Carlson. You know she's there.
Here,
Choir Hugon.
Quiet, here.
Am I saying that correctly?
Just choir, yeah.
Just choir, okay. Selena Jones.
Here.
Emma Lugo.
Here,
Josh Planton is not here. Tammy Jo Wilson
Here?
and Jen Woodward.
Here.
Is there anybody I've forgotten or any name that I should give? It's not on the list. Thank you.
And so we did not receive minutes from the last meeting, so there's no minutes to approve.
My plan is to give you minutes from tonight and the December meeting before the February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And then we just did the adoption of the agenda. Everybody said aye, so moving on. As we said before, no public comment. We don't see anybody online, neither in person. And so we'll start with the discussion items, which is number one, the new 2023 chair and vice chair selection. I've nominated Tammy Jo Wilson.
And I have accepted.
Thank you. And Tima, did you say you were going to stay on as vice chair?
yes, if there's nobody else interested, I would be able to continue.
Sure. Anyone else interested?
Does anybody have questions about the functions of either the chair or the vice chair?
it would be appropriate to ask if anyone was interested in running for chair as well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is anyone interested in running chair?
It's very comfortable as it is, actually.
Well, I did put down little pieces of white paper at everybody's station in case we wanted to do a private poll, or we could just do a show of hands, however you prefer.
I think that's appropriate. Show of hands, since there's only two.
I'm good. No hurt feelings here.
All right, do you want to do the vote together for chair and vice chair as a single ticket, or shall we do for both office?
Let's do single tickets, since we can move on with the agenda, and there's only two that are nominated and
Okay.
agreed.
Well, terrific. Well, then we'll start then. This is, I'll take the role for support for Tammy Jo as the new chair of the Arts Commission. And I'll start with Trias Andrews,
Yes.
Karen Burrig,
Yes.
Tima Carlson,
Yes,
choir.
Yep. Yes.
And if I'm not saying it right, let me know.
That's great.
Alrighty. Selena Jones,
Yes.
Emma Lugo,
Yes,
Tammy Jo, well, you get to vote for yourself, Tammy Jo.
Yes.
And Jen Woodward.
Yes.
Terrific. It looks like it's unanimous. Congratulations to our new chair.
Oh, you gotta finish your meeting.
Okay.
Darn.
All right, well then moving right along, we will now take a
Right,
roll
right.
call for the vote to support Tima Carlson as our vice chair. And I'll just call the names. Trias Andrews,
Yes.
Karen Burrig,
Yes.
Tima Carlson,
yes, I get to vote.
yes, of course you get to vote. Choir,
Yes.
Selena Jones,
Yes.
Emma Lugo,
yes.
Tammy Jo Wilson,
Yes.
and Jen Woodward.
Yes.
All right, unanimous again. Congratulations and thank you for your service this past year. Terrific.
I'm excited for tonight to go through how we're going to disperse the monies. So I'd first like to ask, has anybody here brought anything with them, or ideas even, on what they would like to do for both the general grants and the event grants? And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought there was the portion for events, money for sponsorships, and then 15,000 for grants itself, that the grants would be written and dispersed. Is that correct? Is that
I don't think
understanding?
sponsorships was,
It's probably the wrong word.
yes,
Yeah.
just to have a city sponsored, it doesn't quite work, but,
Okay.
I think there's room for, yeah,
Okay, we can discuss
but we'll
that.
figure it out as we go.
So how about if we just go round robin around the table to see if anybody, and so Commissioner Bjork, have you brought anything, ideas or anything in writing on what are some of your ideas for?
I have not brought any ideas. I guess, I didn't see the agenda beforehand. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I missed that email.
No, it was no email.
Okay,
So you didn't notice that.
so I didn't realize necessarily that that's what we were supposed to do.
Okay.
But I think what I would say is I do think I was under the assumption that we would be talking about what the program would be, that building on what we had past talked about. So,
Correct.
and I guess I'm just interested in what kind of support staff is going to be doing with regarding the format of the grant, and then maybe specifically, we had the survey, right? So we're building off the survey, so it would be helpful if we had that in front of us as we are formulating this.
Perhaps it's Mr. Plant.
That was a very
This idea, because I think it's more than general grants. We have, so I think it's more than general grants. I feel like we already have
Right.
some guidance on it, and maybe I need to be reminded of what that is.
Yeah.
I would agree. I feel like we've had a lot of conversation about grants already.
Yeah.
But with the transition of Daniel, we don't have any of that,
Continue.
information
Hi.
in front of us.
I think when we were looking
There's
for
some
the
buttons
monitor.
underneath under the table you're sitting at that are panic buttons.
Oh.
Oh, that white one.
Push random button.
We should put a little sign on it.
Is it a little switchy thing?
No, it's this one right here.
So sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
Just push the button.
So we should make a sign for this? Oh,
Yeah, like, they should
I
color it red.
Emergency
Oh,
or
is that-
red or something.
Yes.
By the
It's
gavel.
right here. It's
Oh, right there.
just a little white.
Wow. This one too.
That was our.
Yeah.
Okay, is it? Yeah.
Anything ever gets out of control, we know we can call.
Yeah, I mean, if you get a panic button in City Hall, they come. It's quick.
They'll at least come knock on the door.
We're gonna have to watch this video.
Okay,
Okay, moving on. Yeah.
So,
one question?
I was saying that I feel like we've had a lot of conversations collectively when talking about our budget about grants. But I think we need to go back to those various meetings and conversations and see what we talked about previously, and then see where we're at now in connection with the data we got back from our survey. And then, I mean, that's a lot of info to like process.
Well, and maybe part of this is deciding, because I remember too, when we were talking about grants in the last meeting, we were focusing a lot on music opportunities and how we talked about the community college, and then we talked about that between the last meeting and now, researching other musical opportunities. Since on the surveys, we had a lot of interest in music. But maybe what we need to decide too is how do we want to now record our progress in this, since we keep losing track? Beyond maybe just meeting minutes. Is that something you would have advice on? Like, could we, I think one thing we definitely need is a breakdown that consistently shows the monetary breakdown for these three categories that we came up with: grants, events, and research. And then where we stand, because we already used a little of the research money. And then on that same map, maybe break down some of the ideas as we agree upon them, or some of the subcategories at least that we agree upon, like within grants and events. So,
Sure, I mean, yes, I can bring a monthly report that shows how much has been spent since the last time we met, or however.
That would be
whatever
wonderful.
would be helpful, I can prepare that.
And so I guess we would have to, would we need to look back, one of the chairs, I don't know who should do this, but look back in minutes and to recall the amounts on everything and make that original map, or how should we move forward with this?
I was asked to do a presentation for Clackamas Rotary on the Art Commission.
Oh.
So what I did last week, which was really wonderful, and I need hard copies when I go anywhere. I went through a whole year of all our meetings and what we accomplished, which was really fun. So I have all my notes, getting ready for my PowerPoint, so I can absolutely review that.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm confused. What
The-
what information are you pulling from that you're reviewing?
All I got was the meeting minutes of each meeting that we've had
For this,
from
for here?
January through December
For
for this
here.
past year, yeah.
Okay.
And
I think
did
the question
mention
was
it
how
at
are we
the
gonna-
last meeting to make sure everybody was okay, in agreement, and that it was public. This is something that I've been asked to do. I'll be putting a presentation together.
Okay.
So I think we've spent close to $1,000, or maybe a little over 1,000 on the survey,
Right, we have about 3,500 left, yeah.
35,000 left.
Well,
yes.
it's
I'm just
already,
talking
the
about
other
more.
part is also broken up.
Yeah.
We've given direction on a certain amount that would
Okay.
go to grants, and a certain amount that would go to the research, and
Originally, research was allocated 5K. And I can't remember the other two.
I think grants was 20,000.
And
then
And then events, 15,000.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Would it be reasonable to include that on the agenda? Like, if we want to know where we are financially, like, that there's a portion
Sure.
in each agenda?
Yeah, or I could have absolutely. Or it could be a handout that you should get every,
Like a treasury report kind of
yeah.
thing.
So for today, on this general grants agenda discussion item, what do we hope to accomplish?
I have actually been in conversations with 2 or 3 different organizations saying there's money that we're trying to decide on and talking about ideas. So I actually have a handout tonight of some possibilities.
When you say possibilities, what do you mean?
I had a meeting with Downtown Oregon City Association, and we talked about the possibility of, from the Art Commission, and we can talk about it. I can hand these out and we can talk about it event by event. But the first one would be co-sponsoring the main stage with the Confederated Tribes. And that would be cultural music and dance programs. So that's in line with what we got from our survey.
The main stage where.
Could you pass those out?
Yes,
As long as
let me
you're already
pass
talking
these
about
out,
it.
yeah. And do you want to go first? Because I know we're going to do round robin, so would you
Well,
rather?
no, it sounds like you've done all the work, so why don't you share your information with
Okay,
us?
okay, sounds good. I didn't want to.
Can I remind everybody of one thing as you're keep hand out your handout, that grants, when they're different than sponsorships, and we need to come up with a grant program with guidelines, and then it has to be public available, and then there has to be applicants and a review process. And it's not necessarily us just handpicking the things that we want to support. They have to apply and then be evaluated against all the other applicants for transparency and fairness to everybody in the community. So we can use these projects as examples of what we want to see funded and who some ideal applicants would be. I think this is great. We just have to keep that in mind, that we don't get to pick that here.
Are you anticipating events will be handled the same? Because what she just described sounded more like an event
Yeah.
rather than a grant.
I'm not talking about grants, I am talking about events, but I'd be interested to know for sure, do we need to do the same thing for events? Do we need to, also in events, do we have to make it public and share it to all? I did not do anything with grants. I did
Okay.
not even approach it.
Okay.
These are
I mean, it
events.
just depends on who's benefiting. I mean, if we're in some way personally benefiting from allocation of funds for an event, then that's different. But if we're sponsoring an event or helping to contribute to an event that is already an established thing, or that we're also helping, I mean, that's part, as long as it's fitting the mission of the money, which is to promote tourism and the arts in Oregon City, then that's our baseline criteria for events. So we, I mean, but with the event process, you don't have the same kind of curation.
Okay.
I mean, unless we're doing an event that is like an arts performance event where we're doing out a call for artists, that's
Yes,
different.
and that would be fair if, you know, for the ideas behind this is to send out a general call for participants on the stage. And my idea behind this with Liz Hannum was an opportunity to get visibility for the Art Commission so that we'd be able to have banners and would be on co-sponsored by the Oregon City Art Commission. And there's more to this, so let me explain it all and then we can put it up for discussion with
Okay.
pros and cons for it. So it would be a co-sponsor with the stage with Confederated Tribes, booking cultural music and dance. That would be about $5,000, that would be, and these are costs from Liz, so $5,000 for that. Then another idea, this would be an option, but we included it and everything. There's different sections that First City Celebration it has different sponsors for. So the second part would be an area in the First City Celebration that we would have multicultural foods that are represented in Oregon City. So like Mesa Fresco or Cubanos or the Faux Thai place, I know, you know what I mean. So that we would have a representative and also in food for an area. And then the last part was to work with the Historical Society, that they would have which they do this often, they would come in costume and they would represent diverse and multicultural, famous history people from history from Oregon City. And they would have a presentation, because they do this often at different events. And Liz said they usually charge around $1,000 for that. But they would be going around the First City Celebration, and they would have a whole presentation of who they were, what they gave to Oregon City, and a diverse culture of Oregon City to be represented in that. So altogether, that is an output of about $10,000. And I was thinking, I thought that it was events that was 20 and grants that were 15, but I may be wrong on that. And these we can work with, but I wanted to kind of put that out as an idea. Do you want me to go on, or would you rather discuss that idea first before we move on to another idea?
I think I'm just a little confused because I thought we were focusing on grants, and this seems like this is something else.
This is
Well, I
events.
think I think we have to
so if
focus
we're-
on both, but I didn't want to take that responsibility.
But I think
yeah.
we left the last meeting's conversation off on events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems like since she has this here, we could dive into the events part now, and in the next meeting, come back and focus on grants. Because I
Well, we
don't
may
think
have
many
time
of
to
us
do
are as
both.
prepared.
Yeah,
We may have time to do both tonight. One thing that I do want to, and I should have thought of this, Trias, when we were thinking about tonight's agenda, is just to double check what public disbursement requirements are. So when you're at the $15,000 and $20,000 level for public funds, there are requirements, I think, for the number of solicitations you want to receive. I think at the $5,000 level, it's less strict. So I will get specific information regarding that, and how different commissions can spend the dollar. So there may be a minimum at that dollar amount. You may need to get a certain number of bids or something. So I'll confirm that.
And I think when we left the meeting, I thought we had left it that, time is of the essence, and if you can bring any ideas with you to the meeting in January so we can start to talk how we're gonna disperse the funds. Like I said before, I just focused on events. Nothing in this is to do with grants, because that's a whole different animal, and I don't mind helping out with that, but that's writing the grant and making it public, and there's a lot more work to be done with that. So, a lot more work and thought.
So I have a question. So if we do need to follow a city process for dispersals of funds, even for events, would we put out a call for proposals for to make sure that that's widely distributed? It would be something like, we have, like, the Oregon City Arts Commission has $5,000 available for art events in Oregon City. You have until February 1st or something to submit a proposal.
I think something along those lines, and I'm sorry that I didn't do as much research. And I won't wait till next month. I will send you all information prior to the next meeting, starting with our chair.
And so if we were to do a call for proposals for funding an arts-related event, if it's related to an event that the city's already doing, such as First City Celebration, then it's kind of like, I don't know, I'm just kind of curious about that money, because this is a proposal for something that has to do with First City Celebration. So would the proposal be, like, we're already spending money on it as a city? So how does that fit into the framework of doing a call for?
That's a good question. I think that it could make sense for the Arts Commission to contribute to First City Celebration. I mean, some of the specific things that Trieste was just describing wouldn't happen without support from the Arts Commission. I mean, I think you're right that the Downtown Oregon City Association will receive some other funds from the city that may go to supporting some other aspect of First City Celebration. But I don't think what Trieste is describing, those are mutually exclusive.
So maybe this is a conversation for Trieste and a city commissioner, somebody who knows something about city finances.
Oh, I can tell you it would not be duplicative if the Arts Commission wanted to support the First City Celebration, as long as you're not doing the same thing as what the existing event funds would go for, which is like Jersey barriers and, helping Public Works with their piece of it.
Okay.
So no, it would not, there's no conflict there.
Okay.
So Trist, for these things that you select on this list, and I appreciate all of the thought that went into this, are these things that you were thinking that we would just potentially move forward with and kind of as a group decide if we want to support, or what would you see the next step for this?
I brought this totally for discussion. I'm so involved between the chamber and working with Liz Hannum on different things. It just happened. So this is just for discussion to get your thoughts on it. I would not do anything without a full vote of yes, this is what I wanted, this is what we'd like to do, let's move forward. Because there's more than just this idea. I have and just in conversations over the last month, like, what about this, what about this? And I said, let me bring it to the Art Commission. Let me bring it to the Art Commission. That's always my line before anything is done. But I always have done a lot of events over the last few years. This is how my head works. What's your budget? Where are you gonna have it? Who's gonna do the work? So if I bring an idea to you that's how I bring it. This is how much money it's gonna be, this is when it is, and then it's with everybody to decide, do we wanna move forward or do we not wanna move forward?
So I'd just like to, I know I haven't gotten to the next segment of this, but it's part of what you've introduced. I think that the community art project that you've written here, really matches, it really tracks with all of the research that we got back from, from our arts survey about supporting the arts and kids. And so I think that, it's the only thing I'm wondering about with the community arts project that you put in there is that, would you consider that an event or would you consider that a grant?
And I think that, like we've talked about before, I need to clarify to myself, how is supporting an event to the city with our funds and our support and our physical support, how do we differentiate that from a grant?
Do we need
That-
to?
Yeah. I would
I don't
think-
know if we do.
Yeah, well, I think of a grant as somebody mentioned it before. We have money, certain amount of money. There's different organizations that do events throughout the year. We have up to 2,500 or up to 5,000 for grants. And then you send it out publicly and you have, just like we've all gone for grants for the Metro Enhancement Grant, exact same kind of thing. That to me is giving money to an organization that's gonna handle everything, but they need some funds for it. They don't have enough funds. What I focused on was something that we could give visibility to the Art Commission and that we could also work with the city on and support the city as the Art Commission. And I hope that those are within the regulations.
And so this event would track with, again, with the first city celebration, because you've given it like a reveal date of July 8th.
Right, right.
it's
I talked to Liz Hannum
Technically
about this.
part of the first
idea.
city event.
Right.
So it sounds like, and if I'm not understanding this correctly, feel free anyone to. It sounds like so the city has given us money from, I believe our money comes from the tourism department, and for art, but now you want to take that money and redirect it back through the city to art. So we're just taking money from one area of the city, processing it in the Arts Commission, and then using it for art also.
But the city
for
doesn't
the
support
city.
the city doesn't support the first city celebration. The first city
Okay.
celebration supports
So
that
the city,
on their own.
okay.
City doesn't give that, city gives money for.
I think I'm getting confused with the use of the word city.
Yeah.
Is starting to really
So what entity?
muddy the water.
So the first city celebration is its own entity. Like
Yeah,
they're,
that's
it's a
the
thing,
event they put
it's
on.
not
They,
put on by the city. Okay,
Sorry.
sorry. No, it's okay.
Puts it on?
yeah.
Who's in charge of the
The
event?
Downtown City Oregon City
Liz-
Association.
Say again.
The Downtown Oregon City Association.
Okay, can we call it that? It's
Call
the
it-
Downtown
call it
Oregon City
DOCA?
Association
Yep.
has an event.
Right.
And so we would, because somebody, if we're gonna give somebody $5,000, we're giving it to Downtown Oregon,
Yeah,
Downtown Association.
yeah.
In the same way that we would be providing a grant, because there has to be an organization, a person, somebody with a budget and a bank account to manage the funds that we need to be transparent about and responsible for. So,
I mean, that's true. You don't necessarily have to make a distinction between events and another use of the funds. If the recipient is an organization that's different. So you don't necessarily have to make that distinction.
grants just provide a public, transparent process and a fair application process for the public
Right.
and a way for us to really get a broader feeling for what's out there as opposed to us just selecting who we know.
Yeah, and with grants, we would be the people putting the call out, we would be the people reviewing the applicants and then distributing the funds.
We could make sure if they get it on their desk first thing and then help them through the process of applying and make sure that they get that.
Yeah.
So I think what we're discussing here is whether or not, what the difference is between getting grant funding or event funding.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
You're not trying to distinguish between the two?
No, I'm
necessarily.
trying to say that they're not different.
That's another That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
We're trying to understand if there would be a different way to have access to that money between grants or events or not. I mean, from my experience with grants, like Triest was saying, they usually are for probably a set amount. We can change that. We don't have to do it that way.
Yeah, they don't have to be a set
But
amount.
events, and especially if we continue to make a list like this of talk to people and have ideas like this would be definitely be an application for varied amount. The reason I like the application as well is I think, you can, as you're spreading it about community, you are also spreading your name out there. So the First City Celebration, Downtown Oregon City Association could still apply, and we could still have banners there. And we could even put that as a requirement for the event funding, some sort of visual presence. You can add that sort of language, but I think it would be more fair, but still allow us to make these great idea lists. I love what you started.
So just to clarify with you too, so, because I'm a process person also, so to remain fair in what we're talking about, what would the process be for that?
Can I give an example of something that could work? It doesn't have to be what we do, but what I've seen out there working with a place like Clackamas County Cultural Coalition. They have a grant that in the past, I don't know if they still do historically, where it would get evaluated frequently, as often as every 2 to 3 months or every month. And there was a budget for that specific type of grant, and that they would get a budget for each year, and then as entities, organizations would apply, they would review it, they would give them the funds, and eventually that would run out over the course of the year. But it wasn't this like one-time giant, it's like as the people, organizations, the community needed support for an event, they would apply for that. And there would be a faster turnaround. And we're not talking big $10,000 things, we're talking about things like events. But it allows the community to have access to our funds, but it also allows for transparency.
And I have a recollection that I'm familiar with that, because I know, and I think that they had two separate programs, kind of.
Yeah.
One was a very detailed, hey, this is kind of what we're looking for, and we have a date you submit, and blah, 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 blah. But the other was this more rolling open, and when we had done the first intersection painting, we actually received funds from that pot of money where we said, oh, hey, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this now, and they assessed whether or not it met the criteria and whether they still had enough money left.
Yes.
And,
It's a lower criteria, a simpler application process,
Right.
more frequent evaluations.
You know why I like that too is as people get to know us and see this opportunity, and as the seasons change, especially for events, whether they're outside or inside, or still dealing with COVID or not, that could be a really helpful way to keep money available more consistently, at least a small amount.
Yeah, and we could even decide amongst ourselves, like maybe we don't spend it all in the first part of the year, maybe we reserve some for the beginning, and then like don't grant all of it, so that we don't get to December and be like, oh darn.
No more money.
It's up to us to like structure it however we choose.
And one of my concerns is that we need to spend this 40,000 by June 30th.
Yes.
So do you feel with what you've seen, that we'd be able to get that process in place quick enough that we could be able to get it out there in the next 6 months?
I think so.
And I don't mind working on it.
It's a good goal.
I just
I think
want
that's a totally doable,
I just want to, at least my understanding is that this isn't the same kind of money that we might think of with other money. This is really money that this is really the city's money.
Yeah.
It's not really our money.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, so we're,
there's
you get to decide though.
Yeah, we get to decide, but it also, because of the nature of the Arts Commission, it kind of moves in a different way. And so there's some things that I think we can probably just recommend get funded, because this is already city money. And so if it's going towards something that's a city project or a city process, I think that's a different channel of communication than if we're putting out a call for artists. And they want to, you know, do Clackamas County Commission kind of thing. So I just want to remind it that there's, because it's not really our money, it's kind of a different process. I mean, we should always be fair and equitable. I mean, we're required to, but there's also things that we can recommend. Money, I mean, like we didn't go through that kind of a process for the survey. You know, we didn't like put out a call for everybody
Yeah, we just didn't.
to submit
Yeah.
requests, and then we just picked a vendor to do the survey, or who somebody did it. And it's like, this is kind of,
But
events are different from grants, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't think we're talking about funding an event that the city itself, the city of Oregon
Right,
City.
that's a good point, and at first I thought we were.
Yeah, and I did too, because of the word city was getting
Right.
thrown around a lot.
They call
I
it
agree.
they call it First City, but it's run by a private nonprofit.
Yeah,
If it was something, for instance, like if we wanted to recommend that money go towards a Parks and Rec music event,
yes.
or something that's
Then
already
no grant
budgeted,
would be
yeah.
required for that, yes.
Can I propose something, but I don't have anything typed up because
Yeah, go
I've
for
been
it.
thinking about it ever since our last meeting, and I don't know if this would be appropriate use of funds. However, what seemed apparent after the survey was people wanted music. The next thing they wanted was the actually gallery and art events. So those things were pretty close. Most highest was music for sure. And then the other thing I gleaned from the last meeting was we as the art commission really want a space to give classes, have events, do things like that. So my proposal is going to be, and the idea that I have is, I know of a space that has been for rent for a long time in downtown Oregon City, and I actually went and checked it out at one point. It is it's very affordable for the size that it is. It has space, it has a live work space. It has 2 offices and another big space, and then it has a big center space that could be used for music events, dance performances, open mic nights, teaching classes, things like that. And then it also has a large foyer that could be a gallery. And so my proposal was going to be actually using funds to rent that space and give cheap studio space to either visual artists or recording artists or writers. Running a artist in residence, since there's a live workspace throughout the year on a couple month basis, that we could open it up to local people and people nationally. And also, when we have amazing ideas like the music art event that you were talking about, we could put those on, and we could also put calls out to people asking for proposals for dance performances, for music performances, things like that on a monthly basis. And then instead of it being a grant money we're giving to people, we could be like, this is a free space, this is the grant. You can come every month, have a performance here, you know, teach a class here, blah, 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 blah. So that was my idea. And then the other benefit of that would be, there's a lot of foot traffic in the evenings and the weekends there. We could have a sandwich board out for events, or for if we have an ongoing gallery there, or any number of things with our name on it. So people would be consistently seeing the Arts Commission. It would give us a presence in the community consistently. And then when it came time for us to think about fundraising for a permanent space, we are already in the community. The people have seen us time and time again put classes on, put events on, provide opportunities for artists. And we could even use that space to do fundraising events out of, because people know where it is. So this was my idea.
I had an even crazier idea. So first, thank you, Claire, for that.
Yeah.
So, and you're new and welcome. But there's a thing that I think all of us, myself included, went through.
Took us a long time to
Took
learn.
us a long time to learn, and it's still hard for some of us to learn.
As I swallow.
So we are considered an advisory committee, which means we don't get to like run anything ourselves. We can advise and we can
give
support
money.
and we
Yeah.
can give money. So we could provide a grant, say, to an organization or an entity that could do all of those things, but we can't do them ourselves.
Right.
Here's where it gets crazy.
But like an entity, like
Hold on,
a different
I don't leave.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm losing my train of thought.
Sorry.
So you're saying how much easier it is if, say, we were to have Arts Commission, we're to take our Arts Commission money and redirect it within the city of like say Parks and Rec. Like, what if the Arts Commission supported Parks and Rec, who can do programming, and say, Parks and Rec, we want to do arts programming, and we want to support that. Like, I don't know if that's possible within the, like, navigating the rules of how city government and funding works, but we could we advise the city to have Parks and Rec and contribute funding to have them do arts programming in some sort of capacity, like where have the all been wanting and like Choir is suggesting.
Is that something you could,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that Anne, you would be able to ask for us to?
Absolutely, yeah, these are all really great questions, and, yeah.
Because I feel like the only reason Parks and Rec doesn't do it is because nobody's asking them to.
I have extensively looked into this for 3 years with at least 5 or 6 venues. This is the obstacle I could never get around. And I would love, if you have ideas on this, is you have a venue, somebody's willing to do it as an art commission, as an art cultural center. Who is going to run it? Who's going to manage it?
Yeah.
That's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
We can't as the art commission.
Yeah.
You can find, I even got 2 or 3 501c3s organizations together. Same thing. Who's gonna run it? Who's going to take responsibility for it?
Yeah.
Who's gonna be the one manager? I'm in conversations now, very little, but moving slowly along, is with Clackamas Community College. That has a building there called the Art Center, which is totally dilapidated. And he said, I will not do anything with that building until I talk to you first, because it would need a lot of work. And I said to him, my biggest obstacle is who runs it, who takes care of it, who manages it. He said, let's talk about that, because there's a possibility that maybe Clackamas Community College could help out with that. This is all pie in the sky. This is being recorded, so this is absolutely pie in the sky. But these are thoughts. So I am with you. I am so excited about that, but.
Is that building up there by the community garden?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of at the end of that dirt road?
The environmental center.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, has
That's-
an elevator in it.
I mean, having an open call for event or grant funding, I mean, even if we gave 40,000 to just one organization who was going after what you just said, they'd be able to be financially independent for a month with that sort of space. Like,
Right.
the problem is it's really hard to find sustainability after that.
Yeah.
But maybe this would be a starting place for anyone interested. And maybe that's also something we can really try and cultivate, is these opportunities that could result in more and more space
Yeah.
for artists,
Yeah.
performing or otherwise.
Yeah, and I wonder too, this is totally, again, pie in the sky left field, and I don't know if this exists, but I don't know if we could do an open call for a curator. And the grant goes to a curator and that curator is the person who chooses what art goes into a space, or how the space is used, or pretty much manages the space essentially, like a
I don't know what
gallery.
space do you mean?
A space that, like, you're saying the obstacles we run into, like, who's gonna manage the space? So if there is a space,
But the curator wouldn't even be managing the space.
So
It's like, who's paying the
I
light
think
bill?
I think that what's missing here is that the kind of thing you're thinking about would probably need to happen with a building that's owned by the city.
oh, okay.
I think that's really the only way we could actually.
Well, unless unless we had like event grants and someone proposed an exhibition and they already had a space and they outlined that in their proposal. I mean, I could see that, like, hey, we want to rent this one space for 1 month, we need this much.
Yeah.
Have these artists,
Yeah.
that could fit under a grants application,
Yeah.
or an events application.
Yeah.
And grants should, as a general guideline, should not be more than 50% of the cost of whatever they are requesting grant money for. That's just standard, and no entity would expect much more than that. And so we shouldn't be looking to fully fund anything.
Well, unless it's, I mean, we can do what we want that way.
Yes.
Like, maybe there's a genius idea in Oregon City.
Yeah, I'm not saying we can't, I'm just, it would be,
Unusual.
yes.
I've also been told by the city, well, the mayor now, is that nothing like that would be possible through the city without a feasibility study. They are not going to be able to support that without that. Feasibility studies are very expensive. So that's another little obstacle to go through. If it is funded by the city, they're gonna wanna see that before they do anything for any, air center that is.
Oh, for art
the
centers.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is that we stick with the bread and butter things that we know we could do. I mean, we know we can put out like requests for proposals for both like art projects and also for events. And that if they're done in a way that's fair and equitable, where it's a community-wide call, we say exactly what we're asking people to submit for. I think that's really the only safe way to go, because I love all of your proposals, Trius, but they all kind of have like an insider feel to them, which
I
is really
understand.
problematic for how we've been
Absolutely.
trained.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I found helpful about this list is that it does call to my attention the need that we have to describe how we get these things, right? Like, I mean, maybe it's just even a paragraph or whatever that says, I think someone said it already, that there's going to be X amount of funding available to be able to fund this type of thing, and we'll start taking ideas starting this date, right? Whatever that might be, and then all of these people could come and then ask,
Right.
right? But we just don't have that description of how they can do it yet, and how we get there, I don't know.
And I think so that we don't get super overwhelmed, with everybody like rushing to apply at once, breaking things up into like, if you're asking for funds within this amount of time, apply now.
Yeah,
If you're applying for December,
yeah,
apply in July.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that we have
Yeah.
some control over that rolling
Yeah.
experience. But I really love this idea of just letting people
Yeah.
get in touch and say,
And I really
like, we need
appreciate
funds.
this idea of having this rolling funds, stepping back from this and saying, okay, let's first put this as a rolling funds. And then before you said that, I was thinking, and how could we be able to give out the money when people need it? And I was thinking you just put in your grant proposal, I need it by such and such a date. So then we can decide, we can give these people this money then. This person isn't doing it until August, so we can wait for our funds in our fiscal year of July 1st to fund them. So, so then it would be love that idea, the rolling funds.
Yeah, I know RAC uses that, and it's really helpful
Yeah.
to be able to go in and see, if I have an exhibit a year out, of knowing when I need to apply for that funding.
Yeah.
Your one idea here, Trius, of a community art project is an idea that I think would fit most of the criteria that we've been trained on as an arts commission, because you're proposing something that is going out to schools, to nonprofits, to, I'm not sure, community leaders, but it could, if it's like maybe civic or whatever, but if it's like, and if it has a culmination point that somehow promotes the city in some positive way, I think that this, crosses several of the categories that we got research back on, that people support, and I think that it would probably pass any test that we sent James's way, because I'd always like James to kind of review how we're going to allocate funds.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I feel like as far as organizing where we're at and trying to move us, I feel like events, great. Grants, we also kind of circled our way back into there. And then choir's idea, and then the idea of how can we focus our goals, our mission, our advisory as the Arts Commission to have the city also focus some of their resources on supporting the arts. If we start with a list like this, and we start with the grants, and we do it on a rolling calendar. I don't know, maybe it's quarterly, and they can come, and then over the months, years, hopefully it doesn't take forever, we will start to build out culture, and all of these different things that are happening will get additional support, and then more things will start happening, and as we build the culture and the practice, and we become culturally richer as a city, we'll start to be able to justify the need, and it'll be visible, and the city can see it, and the community can see it, and then Parks and Rec can maybe recognize that need, and then that's when maybe we can afford to do a feasibility study and be like,
Get a car.
I'll be there with it.
So I feel like this is where we start. We get the money out there in the community, we build the culture, the arts and culture, and then, yeah.
I love it, and to further that, I think that when we did the survey, one thing I really liked is when everybody brought their own questions, and I think that could be maybe a good step for our next meeting. Between now and then, again, collect all the questions that we think would be applicable for a grant application and an events application, and spend the next meeting ironing it out.
I think it's the same, it's a grant application that events could apply for.
Well, I was thinking about that because I think I like your idea of the application for both, definitely. But for grants, since we have a limited amount of money for both, and with grants we don't have to specify amount, but we could specify a range, and that might be more like we could divide 20,000 into 5 and have between now and June 4 different allocations for a grant. One grant awarded like at 4 times, like 4 grants awarded over the course of the next month. Whereas with events, I just feel like they might need some different wording. We might want.
They don't have to be the same grant, they could be different grants with different descriptions, but we still need a fair application, transparent application process
Oh, yeah.
for the event, which
No,
would
I
still
agree,
be a grant.
but we might want different questions for somebody applying for an event.
Right,
then.
oh yeah,
That's what I mean.
So both grants, just different.
But if we collected questions for both and then decided for both
Yes,
in the
and some of
next
them would be
meeting,
the
we might
same.
then meet our timeline goals.
Well, and
Of getting them out
also like questions, but also like, there are different kinds of grants, and we're
Yes,
just
that's
using
what
a
I-
broad, and I
yes.
think that's what you were
Yes.
getting at. Like, so are we going to do grants that are going to give artist support? Are we going to do grants that are like specifically, like if you're an artist wanting to do something in the community? And we could decide that. We could do a couple different types of grants that are based around our goals and what we want to do, what we want to see
Yes.
flourish in
Yes.
the city.
Exactly.
So-
I'm concerned again about the time limit. Would you all be open to a workshop, because we've had 2 already, but have a workshop that's focused on, we're writing the grant, this is what it's gonna be, it's gonna be sent out.
The grant application.
So workshop is like we put in like an extra long night and we get the whiteboard and the pencil and they facilitate and we just like,
Would your goal be
Go
to
off
have this
agenda.
workshop between now and the next meeting and then go into the next meeting and be like, finalize the applications for both and then work on the strategy for
We would
dispersing
leave that
them?
workshop saying, this is what we're sending out, and it would be
Right.
done. And people would have to do their homework, bring your grants, bring what you have worked on before, what you've sewed, so it's bam, bam. And we've done this before in this committee. So I think that we could do that. Like, always remember, we're not gonna get any more money than what we spent. So if we spend our 40,000, by the end of June, we're getting another 40,000. But if we don't spend it, they're not gonna, and I know they're watching on, hey, we already gave you 40,000, you haven't done anything with it, do something, and we have done
And that's
something
over
with it.
2 years.
It's just not
40,000
being
for 2
seen.
Oh, for 2 years.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
not
not
for
for
a
2
year.
years.
I did not realize that.
But the budget is starting to be talked about now.
Yeah.
That's another thing, is if we spend this money and we get this out, we can be part of the conversation. Now, the Art Commission is part of tourism. What can you give us for 23, 25?
and I bet they'll love
23,
events.
25.
23, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so we have to prove that we need money, we've spent money, we need more money.
I just want to make sure that Commissioner
Tima?
Yeah, has the opportunity to,
Oh, team.
because we haven't really heard from her in a while.
Well, I love the ideas, and I think they're all wonderful and, should be finalized and submitted soon to the city for approval. We've had a year of our commission and not a lot has been accomplished. So I really feel like within the next month, if we can have something finalized and submitted, would be outstanding. I do need to actually leave the meeting here in the next couple minutes, but we just need to decide and, listen to our community and just get it submitted to the city.
And I would just like to comment on that, having gone through the whole last year's meetings and the workshops that we've had. Yes, we've had to move slowly, but we've had to do that in order to set up our foundation. I personally think we've accomplished a lot. Not as much as we wanted to, because we're 9 creative people that just want to go out and do something. We're always holding back the reins. But we've accomplished a lot. I'm proud of this commission, of what we've done, and I feel like the wheels are starting to roll. I was very
I agree.
inspired by Tammy Jones,
Thank you.
like you said before. that we're-
Yeah, once we start rolling, I know.
We're gonna be rolling.
Yeah, we will.
Every commission I've talked to said to me, it takes 3 to 5 years. I said, I know it's hard. It takes 3 to 5 years to get your commission going.
And I want to support what Commissioner Wilson said. I do. I think you guys have accomplished a lot and just, understanding each other and what you want to do. And it does take a lot when you're meeting at 2 hours at a time or 90 minutes at a time. So, right on.
Well, I like the idea of a work meeting in between now and our next meeting. Is that something we want to agree upon or not agree upon now?
It will be challenging, but I will do my best to accept that challenge.
Do we want to try and find a time?
Can we do it at, the last time we did it at this time, we just expanded it, and then I think the beginning and the end. Can we investigate that option?
Say that again?
Last time we did it on the same schedule as this, we just made it a longer meeting.
Like a Thursday evening?
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thursday evenings are good for me.
Thursdays are good for me too.
So our next commission meeting is on February 16th, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I'll ask James if we can get dinner.
yeah, I would say probably not the 26th, because that's kind of soon, especially if we want to prepare stuff. Maybe the 2nd or the
Yeah.
9th.
Yeah.
I can't do the 9th. Wait a minute. I shouldn't do the 8th.
Anybody else have a preference of the 9th or the 2nd?
Second works for me, but I'm going to the dentist that day, so you'll just have to deal with whatever happens on one
Yeah.
side of my mouth.
Second is fine for me.
It's a Thursday, right?
It's a Thursday, yeah.
Yes.
It's a Thursday, yeah, so we would expand the time of this, which we can also discuss.
So February 2nd at 7 p.m. still, or do we want to move it to 6?
6
Move it to 6?
6 to 9.
Well, normally our done time would be 8:30, is that correct?
We can,
Right.
you guys decide.
I like 6 to 9 and hopefully get out sooner. People are okay with that?
Begrudgingly.
So I will at 6 to 8.
And do 6 to 8:30?
I could probably be there by 6:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I might be at 6:30 as well. I could be somewhere between 6 and 6:30.
Should we just make it
Should
6
we just say
to 9?
6:30 to 9?
6:30 to 9?
I'm more comfortable with
So that gives us a whole extra hour, and this is outside of our normal meeting, so we're not gonna go through the agenda, the roll call. We're just gonna come in, everybody be on time and sit down and just get to it.
And do you know where we would be able to meet or?
I mean, I can check and see if this space is available, or we could, it's.
Yeah, like
that's-
if we
that's-
just
that's
use
just
the
a
tables.
yeah.
Can we have a Zoom option?
I bet we could do a Zoom option.
Okay, work party, February 2nd.
I'll look it up right now to see if this room is available.
And so,
So this will be to discuss grants, both for events and general funding for,
discuss applications,
yes.
put together applications,
together-
create applications.
Create applications.
So,
So questions, criteria, things like that.
Would it be a specific request for proposals? I mean, would it be an RFP process? Is that what we're doing?
Well, for the events, I think since we're thinking it would be like a rolling thing, it would be a really simple application process and not like I mean, I don't think of it that way. It would be a shorter application, not $10,000. Like,
Where could we go to find an example of that?
I mean, I can bring examples. There's
Yeah.
lots of them.
I mean,
Let's go on. County Art Alliance does it. RAC does it.
yeah,
Yeah.
RAC has their whole grant schedule of all of their quarterly
Okay.
things
Yes.
Yeah.
online. There's lots
I
of
do
them
think
out
us bringing examples, because they are out there, but yeah, it's not necessarily an RFP process.
And so at this meeting, are we also kind of deciding the timeline for things, or is that something we want to dive into now? I don't know about the rest of the agenda items and how those, if, it seems like we still have time, but
I was
is
hoping
that
we
what
could
we
get
want to
some
also
work
discuss at this work
I
party?
think we should discuss it if we can get budget numbers somehow, because
In between now and then?
I
Like
mean,
how
we
much
just
we
come
have for
with our
grants, how much
ideals of like
disbursements, you mean?
of schedules.
Disbursement schedules?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I would suggest a quarterly for the events and then maybe a larger one that was annual.
I like that, except that we need to use the money that we have by June.
Right,
the
and
end
that
of
could be
June,
more of a.
June 30th. So
Right.
it would have to be, probably have to arrange something for this particular
Right, yes.
funding cycle. And
Yes.
then after that,
Yeah, so
establish
this
a new
first cycle
ideal.
would get a lot of funding. They would get all kinds of funding, and then in the future, it would level out a little bit more.
Okay.
and we're bringing, I'm sorry, we're bringing ideas on like the types of grants we think we would like.
No, we want to do grants for events. I think we've
Just
already.
events? We're not gonna do.
Grants for
different-
events, and a grant that would be more of like a general, like an organization or an entity or something else that is contributing. I mean, unless, we can discuss that at the workshop, but that's
Okay.
the impression that I've gotten from everybody, that we definitely want to support
It
events.
just seems, yeah,
But
it's-
that's not the only thing that we want to support.
right, yes.
But the criteria and the application for an events grant would be different. Like what
Yeah.
they would need and the questions we would ask would be different than for, say, more of an organizational, like they have a artist residency program or like youth arts program. Like
Yeah.
the questions and the criteria and the funding and like all of that could be very different than like First City Celebration.
I do want to bring up that when we designated our budget for the 3 categories, we specifically made one grants and one events. And I think that's an important distinction that we should still, regardless of whether or not we have an application for that funding, I think we need to be careful of that wording. They're not both technically grants, and what distinguishes them?
But if we have an events category, we still have to decide how we're going to support events. We're not running events.
Right.
So we have to distribute our funding. I mean, there's no other word I can think of to call it. I mean, we're giving out funding in a fair process that is a granting process.
Well, but how is that different than we imagine grants? Because we made that distinction. So I think,
I guess
yeah,
what's the question then?
I
Well,
might
it's
have
a little
been misunderstanding
foggy.
it, but I see what you're saying, because I thought events were something that the Art Commission would be able to be support and involved in. And like a First City Celebration, or like the Festival of the Arts, or any number of things that you would you'd be able to support this and not only financially, but in person. And that was the idea that I was under when I was thinking of events as opposed to grants. Events to me was art commission involved.
Running
Grants to
programming.
me were money distributed to the whole public on what they wanted.
So the problem though, Trace, is that like with the first city celebration, that's something that you have a personal connection with. And the same with the arts festival. I mean, even though you're not the chair anymore, you still have, and so since we're giving out funds, we have to do it in an equitable way where anyone who hears about it, who's maybe a resident of Oregon City or Clackamas County, or it's somehow gonna go into Clackamas County or Oregon City, has to be able to hear about it
Right.
and apply for it, even if
So-
it's for an event.
And-
Unless it's an event that's going specifically toward a city-sponsored thing. Like
If it's
there's
staying
something-
within our own
Yeah,
city.
yeah. I did want to just request if we have time before the close of the meeting to get to number 4. And it's just because I got specific feedback from the mayor.
Oh, yeah, I
on
want to
number
hear that.
4. So,
And I think I'm okay with moving on because we'll discuss the rest at the workshop.
We'll say, so I will send some information to the chair and vice chair, and you guys can distribute, when I get back, feedback about RFP processes and dollar amounts. So I'll get that feedback for you, so you'll have that before you meet in 2 weeks. And I think this room is available at that time.
And just to clarify for Choir's question too, because I think part of what you were asking, which I was curious about too, is like, well, if we're going to have grant applications, what are we focusing on? I don't think we've decided. So at this point, from my standpoint, it seems like bring whatever ideas for different
would
forms of grants that you think of that appeal to you and maybe our community, and we'll hash it out in this 2+ hour long meeting together.
I would agree with that.
All right, let's move on to number 4, Commissioner Lugo.
so as you may remember, number 4 is, there was the statue that got hit by the, and we can't reach the artist, we can't do the same statue. So we're gonna have to do a different statue, but this is something that the Arts Commission can, we can, I mean, this isn't gonna come, I don't think this comes out of our budget either, because it's,
we
there's actually
received
insurance money for it,
insurance,
I think
right,
about,
right, and
I think
it's
about
5,000.
$5,600, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, the commissioner, the mayor, had a meeting with the Oregon City, with the McLaughlin neighborhood, and here's what the mayor said. The mayor said, I want to share this idea I had and relate to the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association at their recent meeting. The McLaughlin neighborhood has a heart. It is a welcome and friendly place to live, work, and play. Perhaps a new art piece could incorporate those feelings about this place where we live. So that's all I had, but it's feedback from the mayor. So, as an arts commission, we might want to consider that.
Who's in charge of replacing that?
We are.
We are?
Yes.
Like, we have to
The Arts Commission
commission
can,
someone and,
Yes.
the Arts Commission can decide how that money is spent.
well, but that's different. Go ahead.
So Jen very kindly started working on the call for art for that, and it is sitting right here in my hand. We were tasked a while back to be a committee for that. Here we go. So the process has begun, but with Daniel's transition, there's some really important information that we need from the city to be able to properly fill out a call for art, including budget, size, specification. There's just, we don't have any of that. Don't have an image of the previous sculpture. I don't even remember what it looks like at this point, but I know they wanted something to have a kind of similar essence to it. So it is in process. And Jen kicked it off, and it's currently in my court. And so I just need more information from the city, and this is super helpful. I could even just talk to Denise too, or the
Yeah.
neighborhood association, or we could visit, as it is also my neighborhood. Or we could share the call with them once we get to a more final stage. So that's where we're at with that.
So what you're doing, this is a kind of an outline, an example of
Right.
what has been used in the past. So
Well, no, I mean, this is a rough draft that we then have to like look at the actuals of what is possible and feasible and what was done before, and then adjust this accordingly.
yeah, I mean, because this description of the project overview right now is about the bridge.
Yeah.
It's, so you'll
Yeah.
change the project overview. Yeah, so this is kind of like a template, and then you're gonna update.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Sorry. And so when you update it, you'll then come bring it back to us, and we'll go, yeah, this looks great. Then we can release it.
Right.
That's the concept.
Yeah.
Oh,
But we
okay.
need
All right.
information
So
to be able to fill it out.
The original piece, it was figurative. It was basically like two figures kind of embracing. And it was very popular for some reason. I mean, it was really popular.
Do you know where we can find a photograph of it?
I'm sure I can.
There actually is one online. I think if you go to,
Do we know what it was called?
oh gosh. I'll find it and pull it up in a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do a quick search too.
Yeah, if you could send us a link or something.
But it doesn't have to look like the old, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
according to the mayor, it should just somehow indicate that the McLaughlin neighborhood is a welcome and friendly place to live, work, and play. So whatever that means. But somehow incorporating that sense of pride in this place that we live.
Well, that sentence probably should be in the call for art, I think.
Did our minutes person catch that?
Yes.
Okay.
Also,
Welcoming place to work, live.
Live, work, and play.
Yes. If I write it on paper, it's gonna get recycled in 30 minutes, so.
To live, work, and play.
It's always good to keep the mayor on your side, so. Especially our mayor.
I mean, we're thinking a sculpture, right?
But I
Like,
wouldn't
I
worry
assume
about
we're
it.
thinking of a sculpture to replace the sculpture.
Yeah,
So
Sculpture.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
similar in size, I would imagine.
And it doesn't have to be the same material, but
Yeah.
it has to be sturdy material. Just
And
has
I
to be
don't-
outdoor sculpture.
Know the exact, anyway, location, anyway, yes.
It's 7th and Center.
But like what spot is,
I
like.
can
have to go
walk
out
there.
there, yeah. there's-
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause we'll need-
We're the empty pedestal.
we can just walk across the Seeing it is not being able to like describe it in a piece of paper in a way that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I can't pull it up right now, but if you go to traveloregoncity.com, there's pictures of all the public art that's in
Travel
the city
Oregon
right
City?
now. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's traveloregoncity.com. Traveloregoncity.com, and if you go to explore, you can find there's an art section.
Okay.
There's a map with all the different public art that's in the city.
Can I feel it's reasonable that in the call for art, like I've applied for certain like public art and like storefront windows, and they give you a drawing of the dimensions, like from a bird's eye view, and I think we could definitely create something like that pretty easily, so that the person or people.
Do you wanna join our committee? Actually, no, is she allowed to do that, cause then it's 3 people?
I'm sorry, say that question again.
Is she allowed to be a part of our committee, because then it's 3 people, are we still?
The benefit of you
We're
having
still under
just
quorum.
2 is
Well, you can have 4 people before you reach.
4, is it 4?
in immediate 4.
Okay, so 3 is still good.
So 4 people can meet up and talk about Arts Commission
That's
things
quorum.
without a problem?
Okay.
Quorum.
Yeah,
Alright,
we
so
have to be
3.
careful when we
A
gather.
quorum means that we're actually having a meeting.
Right, which
So it has
is
to
why
be
you can't
less
have
than
It has to be 3 or less,
Less
3
than
or less
4.
of us.
Yeah.
Because
So this goes for public events or even chatting online if it's not a public
Email as
meeting.
well.
Email,
Don't
we
email us.
cannot
Email her.
discuss things.
Does that make sense? So what they're saying, so like if 5 of you got together, there should be public in the room. It should be a public conversation. But if there's 3 or fewer, it doesn't have to be publicly advertised.
Oh, gotcha.
And we've been cautioned, not really told we can't, but cautioned
to remain it to either one-on-one, and also said you can't like talk to this person about something and then talk to 3 other people individually about the same thing, or that constitutes a meeting.
Gotcha.
So
Yep,
you have to just
yep.
be very careful.
She
that it-
tried everything.
Coffee meetings, yeah. So long story short, if you wanted to join Jen and I in the conversation on building this,
I would like to join Jen and you.
I'm trying to get to see the art, but it's not working. Maybe later when I'm not in this building, it'll work.
I actually have like almost $45,000 in grants to write. I mean, grants or events, yeah, including this.
It's exciting.
So am I saying that some subgroup will get together and review this draft and have it ready to release our first call for proposals?
Well, they're gonna prepare a draft and they'll bring it back to us.
Yes. We're not gonna do it on our own.
Yes, right. So, and then bring it back at the regular February meeting, is that the goal?
Can we not put a deadline on it just yet? Because we have this big workshop coming up.
Oh, yeah. I thought we're asking just in general.
And
That's
once
a lot of
we
homework for
do,
me.
No, I agree with you,
once we do finalize our calls, we have to have the city commissioners approve any calls. Is that correct?
No.
No, we
That's
can
not-
just put
Just
them out?
funding, I think.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, nice.
This is our-
Thanks.
That's what we do.
Took us a long time to figure this out.
I'm the new person.
Yeah.
I think we're
To
good.
move on?
Yeah.
Okay, would you like to do a quick round robin? Anybody have anything to say? To put it on for either the next agenda or anything you're working on? Commissioner Lithell? Anything? The only thing, this was a request also from Mayor McGriff, but the Archbridge mural that is up in the library right now, she wanted a professional photograph taken of that so we could have posters made of it and possibly T-shirts that we could use for fundraising at different events that our commission might be on. So I talked to a photographer, $75 for him to take a shot. And I said, what about if you also take a shot of the White Rabbit Cafe, also, that we could make something from that. So I think that's pretty minimal funds, hoping that if we can bring it to the next, because we can't put something on the agenda until we first talk about it. So we'll put it on the agenda to take a vote on that, and then.
I don't
Yeah.
understand exactly, what are we voting on? Are you trying to give them money?
The money, because we'll need money that I'm gonna have to pay the photographer if we decide yes, then I need permission for the funds, correct? Would I need approval for the funds for that? Or how
So-
does that process go?
This is to have a photo that we would use in promotions for this commission. So if we
Right, yeah.
did sponsor events, you're saying we would use that photo in like flyers or banners
Posters,
or.
The mayor's idea is have a poster made of the Archbridge mural, the 3-piece mural that's in the library right now, and have posters and be able to sell them as fundraisers.
For the commission.
It seems to me that that should be something that the city
Yeah.
should fund. They should just talk to tourism, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it should actually fall upon our shoulders, because I don't think
Yeah.
we can do fundraising,
Yeah,
right?
Wait, no, we can.
Oh, we can? Okay.
Yeah.
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 But we haven't talked about doing it yet.
If the city is trying to fundraise for their own agenda, I'm not really sure what they're going through us for.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm concerned about is the artist needs to have some sort of say in if their art is being photographed and reproduced and used for fundraising. That the city needs to respect that.
Yeah.
And we can't just start photographing the art around town and using it to our profit.
Yeah.
I don't also know how that poster would fall necessarily in our budget
Yeah.
allocations.
And but I might have misunderstood that this is something that I can talk one-on-one with the mayor about, that it's not an art commission. It's not an art
I
commission.
mean, I feel like the mayor would have access to $75.
I know, I might be completely off,
Yeah.
that this is not something for the art commission, it is something, I just in my mind thought, well, how are we gonna get to 75? I'll just talk to Denise and see how we
Yeah.
can do that, how we can
Yeah.
continue on.
Because it seems to be valuable to the city to be able to have an example, just similar to what we were just talking about. Can we have a picture of that piece of art that was in the city, right? I'd like to be able to see it. So it's like, and so the city had access to it online, you know. It would be nice if the city was able to take a picture of what was done here in the city, right? And had it for their files. And then at the time that someone wants to use it, you go through the process. It's like, you know, you were just talking about like getting the appropriate permissions and blah, 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 blah. But it shouldn't have to be something that the art commission pays
Yeah,
for.
that seems more like a marketing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if they brought it up because it's an opportunity for us to fundraise, I think down the line, that's a great idea. But we're already at capacity as far as what we're trying to do before the end of June with the funding that we have. I mean, maybe in the next cycle, focusing on a fundraising opportunity would be in our best interest, because we'll have things happening and we'll have more and more uses for that. But now it's just like,
Yeah.
maybe not the
And
time.
I'm sure there's other opportunities, you know, through other organizations and the city. So let's just take that off the table, that this has nothing to do with the art commission, but I'll just talk
I mean,
one-on-one
it's be that
with her
strongly
and that's
worded,
way
but
to do that.
I mean,
But
if she
I
wants
really-
to collaborate or she's looking for us to advise her in some fashion,
Yeah.
we're happy to do that. But
Which we did,
Because you found her a photographer.
so maybe we're already good.
I brought it up because that is something I didn't think of. You need permission, you need,
Yeah,
so thank you for that input.
she's gonna watch this meeting too now.
What?
Nothing. Oh, I was just picturing our mayor watching this meeting.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, didn't. Now, moving on, so Commissioner Wilson?
Thank you. I have no updates or end of meeting things to contribute at the moment.
Commissioner Quire?
I'm just stoked to be here, y'all. Thanks.
It's wonderful to have you. No.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Good.
I
Okay.
did want to mention one thing.
Yes,
Interesting. Even though it's not happening here in Oregon City, I just want to remind people that the Portland Light Festival is going to be happening starting in about 2 weeks. And it's a really great example of, public arts. It's a 7-day festival up in Portland, and it's really pretty amazing. So check it out if you've never been.
Let's get more inspired. There being no further business to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned 8:30.